Bex, here to talk about the relationship between the football club and SU and your partnership. Perhaps we start by talking about kind of the facilities that you now have access to.
So at the moment, all of our clubs are pretty much responsible for sourcing their own facilities, resources, transport, things like that. Definitely puts a bit of a burden on the committees that run those clubs. At the SU, we do try and support them where we can, but obviously we support all of the clubs kind of across the board. So it's quite hard to give our attention necessarily to one club specifically, and it's quite hard for us to have expertise in all of the different sports as well. I think obviously Lincoln City getting involved offers us facilities that we don't necessarily have access to at other times of the year. Definitely takes the cost burden and the organisational burden off of the committees, which is obviously only beneficial to them being then able to focus on their sport. Yeah, and
this kind of taken for the football teams, gives them access to facilities that they just weren't able to access before.
Yeah, definitely. Things like Riseham College, obviously a bit tricky to get to, definitely sometimes out of the budget of our clubs, and it's quite hard to get space on there because it's such a great facility. Obviously Lincoln City have got that link in, being based up there with all their academies, that it means that our students are now getting the benefit to kind of have that access to. It's a great 3G, there's not a massive amount of 3Gs in and around Lincoln, especially kind of in your evenings when students need to be training because they're at uni all day. So yeah, definitely a great resource. That along with the stadium that they play in, the Lincoln United Stadium on Ashby Avenue. It's been a great home ground for our men's ones this year as the trial, and we look to kind of expand so our men's and women's get that facility space again through next year as well.
And access to elite coaching as well. So the coaches, Isaac with the men's team, I think it's Iona with the women's team, kind of feed into the academy structure at the football club, so just giving the best quality coaching around.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely tricky in Lincoln, being quite an isolated city, to find a really high level of coaching for any sport. Football, we're a little bit luckier that there's a couple around, but Lincoln City kind of having Isaac and Iona in training with them, like regularly coaching to a high level as well, bringing that expertise into our university system, and our men's ones and our women's ones teams are the students involved in those are only going to develop under those individuals, kind of without having any burden on themselves, which is kind of often what happens. A lot of player coaches in and amongst our teams at the moment. I think kind of having those external coaches coming in, loads of experience, loads of ideas will definitely elevate the level of sport that we play at the moment.
And for all the students, it can open their eyes to the career possibilities within professional sport.
Absolutely. I think our Students' Union clubs are some of our most engaged students, and we're super lucky to work with them on a regular basis. I think the football teams having this level, being up at Riseham College, in and around Lincoln City coaches, kind of all the backroom staff that we might be able to access as well. I think it's going to open their eyes to certain students that may be on sports science courses, things like that, to see what sort of roles are out there, what that kind of means on a day-to-day basis. Whereas they might not necessarily get that on their course, quite course-based, classroom-based, things like that. I think it might even open the eyes if they're not on those sorts of courses as to how they can kind of stay in football post-university, which is definitely exciting.